is Indian Country Today.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Trahant. Here are the headlines from Indian Country Today. Pasco Yaqui Tribal Council members are celebrating federal funds, which will be used to bring water to the tribe for irrigation. Some call the $900,000 a blessing. The money comes from a water bill and allows the Army Corps of Engineers to create water infrastructure projects in Arizona. The tribe will work with the Corps, which will pay 75% of the cost of the project. Once the project is complete, the tribe will take over all operating costs. The chairman of the tribe, Peter Picchio, says the water will help his tribe now and in the future. A new course at Los Alamos High School in New Mexico is focusing on Native American cultural studies. One teacher, Kimberly Engelking, helped establish the course after the school board passed a resolution in recognition of Native American Heritage Month in November 2018. The board resolved to use Native American history and culture in the curriculum, as well as activities at the school to interact with tribes. The school district is fully aware of the New Mexico Supreme Court ruling on the Ozzie Martinez case and is working towards implementation of the court's ruling. Engelking says the course will provide a counter-narrative to the current practice of what happened to the Native people in New Mexico. It will also celebrate the concepts and core values that have allowed them to maintain their cultural identity, accomplishments, and sovereignty. The course will strive to strengthen the identity of Native American students. In addition, she says, non-Native American students will become more aware of the challenges and achievements of Native Americans. She also hopes the course will lead to understanding and respect for Native cultures. A tribe in Minnesota is buying a stake in a national engineering service firm with 9 offices, including the headquarters in Minneapolis. The Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community acquired 47% of Windward Engineers and Consultants. This is the first time the tribe has co-owned an engineering firm. The tribe that owns and operates 2 casinos, Mystic Lake and Little Six Casino. The deal, which was in the making for 2 years, closed January 1st. The tribe would not disclose financials, but confirmed the Windward Engineers investment exceeds $1 million. With Shakopee's involvement, the company will be designated as a federally certified minority business enterprise. The tribe expects Windward to cater to clients with existing buildings and to those who are constructing hotels, offices, retail stores, gaming establishments, and other projects. With its ownership stake, the tribe can also offer engineering jobs and skills training to tribal members for the first time, while also diversifying the tribe's income streams. The University of California at Berkeley is removing the name of a controversial anthropologist on a building because of the man's negative history with Native Americans. Alfred Kroeber, who was born in 1876, is the founder of the study of anthropology in the American West. His name is on the university's anthropology building. In calling for the removal of his name, the committee that suggested the name change cited his treatment of Native American genocide survivor named Ishi. Ishi was used as a living exhibit in Berkeley's Archaeological Museum at the time. The committee reached out to the campus community and received an overwhelming response, 85%, in favor of the name's removal. After reviewing the name and the history, the committee voted unanimously to have it removed. It will now be called temporarily the Anthropology and Art Practice Building. Members of the Awu tribe of Papua, Indonesia, are demanding a halt to the operation of a palm oil company. The company PT Indo-Asiana Lestari is said to be gearing up to clear ancestral forests. The tribe says that the company failed to obtain the community's consent for the project. And they add, it's not clear whether the company even has the required permits to begin operations. Manga Bay News reports the company is part of the mega project that is already dogged by allegations that key operating permits have been falsified. The Papua region is home to the world's largest contiguous swath of tropical rainforest, but large areas may be cleared for plantations. And those are the headlines from Indian Country Today. I'm Mark Trahant. We'll be right back.
This is Indian Country Today.
The digital divide is closing, and tribes across the country are finding ways to connect in interesting ways. From TikTok to Zoom, folks are creating memes, music, and language apps to reclaim traditions. Today, we meet people across Turtle Island who use technology for cultural transmission and to have a little fun. Last week at the presidential inauguration, we saw a bundled up Bernie Sanders sitting by himself in the cold. Suddenly, there were images all across social media of the Vermont senator, sometimes donning a Pendleton blanket. ICT reached out to some of the meme creators to hear their stories. Ron Korn Jr. is a citizen of the Menominee tribe in Keeshna, Wisconsin. He heads their language program. Dawn Knickerbocker is president of the Greater Cincinnati Native American Coalition in Ohio. She's Chippewa. I asked Ron how they came up with the idea to use a Bernie meme to teach their language.
We were actually having a live Zoom session to facilitate our online language group that was sort of born out of the pandemic. We started reaching some different audiences that we wouldn't typically reach, and when we ended the Zoom call, we kind of noticed that there was a little bit of movement going on the Bernie thing, and one of my friends in the program, gave me a call after we hung up on Zoom and said, "Hey, maybe we should kick out a few of these." And so we worked on a few, and he sent them out. And by the time we woke up, we had a little more traction than we thought we were going to have. What we were kind of trying to capitalize on was the fact that some of the conjugations in our dialect of Algonquin language are a little difficult to grasp. So we're going through these right now in our class. So for instance, if you guys have seen some of them trending, you might have seen like "Okay Sapeo," he sat. We've also got the case of Paywok, they sat. We'll put them in a blanket and said "Nemakapayim," I'm sitting. Him and Forrest Gump on a bench, "Nemakapayim," now, we're sitting. So we sort of tried to run the gauntlet of our animate intransitive verb form.
Dawn Knickerbocker, tell us about your Bernie memes.
Our group put out just 3 memes that were one of Bernie with smoke signals, him kind of sitting in the background, and so then we also put out one of him in a black and white picture from around the tribal area where he's from. And then we also put out another that said "Meanwhile at the powwow." So those memes were just us trying to come up with some creative ways to participate in the moment. We didn't know that other natives were doing it at the same time, and we really didn't have a lot of planning or understanding of how this could really blow up, and we didn't apply it to our language programs or anything like Ron did, which is brilliant, clever, but we were just kind of having fun with it and thought it was a great way to be inclusive. I know for me, it's that he showed up to this really fancy event in a very humble way. And so that spoke to me personally, wearing the same coat that, he wears all the time. He had handmade mittens that were given to him by a teacher. And so that was kind of, he embraced what, a lot of people I know do, which is, just kind of show up as you are. And that really resonated. And that's what we see when we are at community gatherings too, is that people come with their humble selves. And if it's not your event, you don't take the fanfare away from who's supposed to be speaking.
I'll probably say, agreeing with a lot of what Don said, and also, just feeling like he's a guy that I could relate to. The way his policies are, and the way that he promoted himself on the campaign trail. I think we all could agree that he's definitely taken an approach probably similar to what we in Indian country in general, I guess, would take. And Like Don was saying, we had over 30,000 views of these memes, which was ridiculous to me. I could have never imagined something else.
You're right. This is something else. Thanks, Ron Korn and Don Knickerbocker, just two of the many meme makers in Indian country. Next, it's the 200th anniversary of Sequoia's Cherokee syllabary. We'll be right back. It's the 200th anniversary of the printing of Sequoia's syllabary. Unlike the alphabet, a syllabary is a formal structure for the Cherokee language. It uses both the English alphabet and Cherokee symbols. Roy Bonney, Cherokee Nation Language Program Manager, tells us about this unique way of writing.
Well, it's always increasing in usage. Like most native languages, Cherokee is endangered. So we're fortunate that we do have a writing system to help us, revitalize it. And so even within the last few years, more and more people are starting to learn it now. And it's become a very great point of pride for a lot of people to, be able to write in Cherokee. And for Cherokees, we like to look at this with the long view that when, in the 1820s, when Cherokees got their printing press, we adapted the syllabary to that. And ever since, every time there's been a major form of writing technology like typewriters, word processing, fonts or whatever it is throughout the years, we adapt to it. So we just keep using that new technology and moving along with our language. What's happening is you have a lot of sick language learners of Cherokee that are learning syllabary, and so they're using technology to text and create documents and books and whatever else, social media, videos, and so they send that back and forth. So in terms of the technology itself, it's being used quite heavily day to day. And many of our elders, it took them a while to get used to the technology stuff just in general. But when they see a device like an Android or an iPhone with their language on it, that they take to it much easier than they would otherwise, because otherwise they might not even use it. But that gives them an ability to connect to their children and grandchildren.
That was Roy Bonney on the 200th anniversary of Sequoia's Cherokee syllabary. We'll be right back to hear about identity legislation in Canada. First Nation filmmakers are now pushing for new legislation to penalize people who pretend to be Indigenous in order to access grants, awards, and jobs intended for Native people. There's a long history of non-Natives assuming a tribal identity, everything from using redface in a Hollywood film to the antics of the Boston Tea Party. Jeff Beer is a seasoned journalist who makes documentary films. He's Maliseet, and one of his most recent film series is From Petroglyphs to Pixels. Jeff, give us a background to Indian country's pretend Indian problem.
Well, this has a long history in our country. We have, going back to the creative arts, we have a fellow named Joseph Boyden, who has written some successful books. And he was, the star of the media, Canadian mainstream media, for many years as a spokesman. He even appeared in front of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, our examination of residential schools here. And he basically claimed to be Métis, and but he couldn't identify that more than the word Métis. And he was outed by the literary community. They were quite upset that he took the identity, and basically, really loved the spotlight. He danced in front of the cameras, and he basically appeared in radio shows, television, magazines, newspapers, and when they found out he was Métis, it happened just before Christmas, a couple of years ago, and the fallout was incredible, because he took a big fall when he couldn't prove his identity. More recently, a woman by the name of Michelle Latimer claimed to have had ties to Métis as well. And she identified herself as being a Métis from Kitigan-Zibi. CBC journalist Jorge Barrera uncovered the story after Jeff Barnaby, a Mi'kmaq filmmaker, had written to a number of people after the Toronto International Film Festival, where the media, the CBC in particular, fawned all over her and claimed she was leading the new generation of filmmakers into a very new world. It's discovered since that she has absolutely no ties to Kitigan-Zibi. Jorge talked to some elders up there and discovered this unruly fact. And so, basically she's taken a fall too. This is not unlike the situation in America where Ward Churchill falsely claimed to be native of native ancestry. And it's kind of it's an issue that goes back in time. And even our people, Mark, our people had racially identified themselves as white because they had white phenotypes back in the day when assimilation was the big push, and racial inequality was just the thing of the day. It's a crossover of identities, a crossover of races, but it's different now than it was 125 years ago when we were trying to find equality. Now that we have equality, it seems like it's become a bit of a burden. We're supposed to know where we come from, to know where we're going, but it was George Harrison who said that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. It's unfortunate that these kinds of things are coming up, but also, philosophically, the question is always comes down to Métis. For Indigenous people, First Nations who have tribal affiliations and clan affiliations, we have no problem identifying ourselves to our community. And I think that's what it boils down to, is to be able to connect yourself to a community, to a clan, to elders that know who you are, those of us who have the lived experience, instead of the romantic notions of what it is to be Indigenous.
That was Jeff Baer, Canadian filmmaker, talking about proposed legislation defining First Peoples' identity. It's been a year since the coronavirus was deemed serious enough for China to go into lockdown mode. Still reeling from the pandemic, we've changed the way we live and work. That's especially true for performing artists. Meet two multimedia artists who have found ways to collaborate across the miles. James Pacotis is a citizen of the Colville Confederated Tribes and lives in Washington. And Talon Bazil Shoots the Enemy Duchesneau is enrolled in the Cheyenne River Tribe in South Dakota. They were brought together by the First Peoples Fund during an artist convening in 2019. Talon and James have been working together ever since, with 1,000 miles between them.
What First Peoples Fund was doing before the coronavirus is we would get together in a artist convening or fellow convening, and we're there in Phoenix for maybe 4 to 5 days, and as soon as me and James really got in each other's space, we quickly kind of noticed each other's work ethic and artistic sides, and eventually we went through with Gunnar Jules and Tony Louie and creating a song during that convening. And really from then on, me and James have just been in constant contact, collaborating, working with one another, and that was definitely from that point on in 2019.
A lot of Google Drive, a lot of passing back and forth, whether they're files of instrumentals or vocal files. We've got the internet is a beautiful way to be able to collaborate with people no matter where they're at, and we do through Zoom as well. So even if we're creating video content, we create conversations around the content we're creating, whether it's producing for film or making new projects. We're always in conversation, and we're recording these Zoom calls and then editing them in post-production and then making them more digestible for people to hear.
For me, it's a little iffy because I'll get kind of side gigs to perform virtually, or I'll get asked by an organization to help produce a piece that they're working on, or right now I'm working on this thing called Creation Story with Keith Braveheart, where I'm doing the sound engineering for an art exhibit that they want to do. That's about the Lakota creation story. With that funding and whatever comes out of that, just as James showed me in our residency that we did in 2019 together, where we recorded an Iktomi series, a series on the Trickster Iktomi, it's about reinvesting all of that and trying to get it another way to sustain something else, because I feel like the more that we have been reinvesting, the more not just better our art becomes, but as James said before, our goals with this really are to uplift our community, and not just by us talking about it, but by us showing those actions through how we conduct our work, and how James will involve all of the youth and artists in his area who he believes in and wants to shine with the artists that I have coming from my network of people who I've seen throughout my 10 plus years in this music game, of the artists who inspired me and had me on their music when I was just a freshman in high school.
So it wasn't so much of me being the one in the forefront. It was just sharing story and giving other people opportunity, right? Still trying to build community in this new way, this virtual way, right? And in doing so, have been able to keep a roof over my head. And then the other half of it is all of the grant writing. So grants and fellowships. I'm very, heavily involved in writing grants. My partner, Maura Garcia, really taught me how to really develop a system to save my content and get to writing more often. So really a lot of them have been very, very supportive, along the way, and inspired, because I'm not afraid to try new things, like start over and find a new beginning, I just take the thought of no matter where I'm at, I feel my ancestors with me, no matter where I'm at in art or business. I have resilience for hundreds of years built up in my spirit.
A lot of this, we can't separate these things from ancestry and tradition. We're very about breaking down the whole modern versus tradition dichotomy and duality. And I say that because I mentioned before we got on that I saw you when I was younger, and I specifically remember going up to shake your hand because you showed me at a young age, just like many of our ancestors, that there can be a sophistication and a real intelligence to radicalism and radical art in the way that we present things and do it with love. And you showed me that, and with our music, that's kind of what that really is what we're trying to do. It's with passion and spirit and tradition, but with a sophistication and a way of doing it that says, it's more than just a feeling. It's more than just what it is. It extends to so many different things, be it our voice, a song, whatever. And you really showed me that when I was a young person. So thank you.
James Pakotis and Talon Duchesneau, let's see a clip from a short documentary produced for First Peoples Fund.
So let's back that up. Okay. What are we working on now? What's everybody working on now? I love compression, yeah.
Repurpose, resurface. I take a swig and watch my life seem emergent. I take a drag and watch my mind deteriorate. I take a call and it might seem worthless, but hits to the heart gon' fill my bed, and hits to the lung gon' fill my head. Only feel alive when I feel so dead. I skip meals and I think instead. Play deep, I just need my set. Pray deep for my once were friends. Pray deep for these kids in tests that I'm all gotta face. Why can't I pretend like they don't see mommy? I'm not a zombie, night of the living dead. Just breathe calmly. Talk back to this monster with a knife piece on me, but only if the fist don't solve the problem. You know I caused them. Pray to God, send me a head just to rip one off. Cause ain't nothing working. How could I be wrong when I know you're hearing every goddamn song? I feel much and so damn long. I need help. I just need these songs.
You want to share your project? And reverb and all that stuff.
I picture revenge to blatant torture. Learn to hustle anything, even just for quarters. Peep the sources like Just James on that shoebox. TS counting all these tracks, crazy moon rocks. Darby take you way, way back like some tube socks.
From all of us at Indian Country Today, thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. I'm Mark Trahant.
You got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.
Indian Country Today is recorded at the Phoenix Indian School Visitor Center in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is Indian Country Today.